Okay, guys, let's continue on looking at single elements or empty arrays in families. Okay, this will give us the ability to display arrays containing 0 or 1 element. It will work as expected both in linear and radial arrays, and it's available only within the family editor. That means that you can only do this in the actual family itself. Okay, so you create the family array within the family, and this will allow you to then create the parameters necessary to be able to then control it in your project. Now let's go ahead and see how this works and how we can put it together. As you can see here, we have a array already set. Okay, if we select it, we realize then that this in fact is a family because it allows us to go to edit family, and it has a horizontal array parameter and a vertical array parameter in the properties of the array itself. Okay, so we can go ahead and say this is no longer going to be a horizontal one. Let's say 3, let's say it's 1. Okay, and apply. And as you can see, it comes down to 1, or we'll switch it down to 1 on the other one, basically vertical and horizontal arrays. Now, the reason why this isn't working in the vertical arrays is because as this is loaded, it does not have a parameter assigned to the vertical. So the question now becomes is, what can we actually do? Let's go ahead and switch this back over to 3 so we can have the original to actually make this work correctly. So this is how it's done. If I come over here to this other view that we already have prepared, we see that we have a horizontal array that already has a parameter assigned to it. And we also have a vertical array that has no parameter assigned to it. So the question is, first, how do we assign the parameter, or how to create the parameter? Well, that is rather simple. If you go ahead and select your array, and then you have the option to select what I call this witness array count item right here, that gives us an option here to create a label, or say where the label says there is none assigned to that. If we open it up, we have previously created a vertical array. Okay, if we wanted to create a new array, all we needed to do is just, or array label, all we would need to do is just add a parameter and then follow these particular steps here, which we're not going to do. We're just going to go ahead and say that the vertical array is assigned to this one right here. Okay, we go ahead and now save it. And then we go ahead and load it and override the existing. So now what happens? Look what happens. If I actually select this item, we said that the horizontal is 3 arrays, but the vertical is just 1. So there's no more this way. Now we can control them the way we want. Coming back here, let's say, for example, 0, and it will make all of them disappear because one of the parameters is absolute 0. If we switch it to 0 on the horizontal, once again, 0 everywhere. If we switch it to 1, nothing is happening, but we need to have at least 1 and 1 on both, okay? So that way it gives us a show. If we just have 0 on both, for example, the question would actually be is how do we actually go ahead and select this, okay? Because we don't know where that particular array is. I would suggest that you use the crossing window, okay? That gives us the grips here. And if you look at the properties section, it has now been made available to you, in which case you start to actually go ahead and tell it to start displaying any way you want to display it. Now, the question now becomes is how did we get the actual parameters that we created to come up in the properties section? Well, if we look at the array itself and we go into the actual family types and we look at the horizontal array, for example, and we go to the edit icon, we will notice that we made it an instance. So we know that instance parameters are specific to the actual object array. If we were to have selected it as type parameters, then that would be to the family of arrays. Okay, so in other words, what do I mean? If we make it instance, it appears here. If by the example being shown here. So these are instance parameters. If they were type parameters, they would show here in the edit type of the parameters of the editing of the actual array family.